All right, today we are diving deep into one of the Bible's most absolutely chilling and mysterious stories. We're talking about a divine message written on a palace wall by a hand with no body attached. Yeah, it was a message that terrified a king and literally sealed the fate of an entire empire.
So these were the 4 words that just materialized on the wall. MENE, MENE, TEKEL, UPHARSIN. I mean, can you imagine you're at a massive royal feast, music's playing, everything's great, and then you see these words being written by an invisible hand. This wasn't just some graffiti. It was a terrifying, cryptic code sent directly from God. And get this, it wasn't a dream or some vague prophecy that could be interpreted a dozen different ways. No, this was different. According to the book of Daniel, this was a direct, in-your-face message of judgment, written by the very hand of God. And the worst part? No one in the entire kingdom had a clue what it meant. Now, to really get the gravity of this, we have to set the scene. We're in ancient Babylon. King Belshazzar is throwing this huge, wild party. And in a moment of just unbelievable arrogance, he orders the sacred gold and silver cups, the ones taken from God's temple in Jerusalem, to be brought out so he and his buddies can drink wine from them. A huge no-no.
And then, just like that, the party comes to a screeching halt. The king looks up and he's completely frozen in terror as the fingers of a human hand appear out of thin air and start writing on the palace wall. He freaks out, calls for all his wise men, his magicians, his astrologers, but not a single one of them can make sense of the writing.
So how in the world was this code finally cracked? Well, they bring in the prophet Daniel, and he understood something that all the king's so-called experts missed. The key wasn't just in the words themselves, it was in the numbers behind them, a little something we call biblical numerology.
So, what is biblical numerology? It's actually a pretty fascinating concept. You see, in ancient languages like Aramaic and Hebrew, every single letter also has a number value. So these weren't just words on a wall, they were a mathematical equation from God. Daniel knew this, and he knew exactly how to read the spiritual meaning hidden inside.
Okay, so let's do exactly what Daniel did. We're going to break this divine message down piece by piece to uncover the judgment that was about to fall on King Belshazzar.
The first word is MENE. It literally means numbered or counted. The message here is so direct and devastating. God has counted the days of your reign, and guess what? Your time is up. It's over.
Now, here's where the numerology kicks in. The letters in MENE add up to the number 91. In biblical studies, this number is often seen as representing the complete and total authority of God. Think of it as a divine signature of power. And remember, the word was written twice, MENE, MENE. That repetition is so important. It's like God's way of saying, and I mean it. This decision is final. It is settled. It cannot be changed. The judgment is absolute. So that brings the total value for this part of the message to 182. Next up, we have TEKEL. This one means weighed. The imagery here is just so powerful, isn't it? It's this idea that the king's life, his character, his soul, it's all been placed on a divine scale of justice, and he came up short. It was found lacking. Now, its numerical value is 530, and in some interpretations of numerology, you can actually sum the digits. So 5 plus 3 plus 0 equals 8. The number 8 is often connected to God's covenant name, YAH-WEH. It's a way of saying that God himself is the one doing the weighing. He's the ultimate judge. So what exactly is God weighing on these scales? Well, it's not the king's power or his wealth or his social status. Nope. The divine scale measures something much, much deeper. It measures a person's true character, their righteousness, their obedience. And by that measure, the king had failed completely. And that brings us to the final word, UPHARSIN, which means divided. This is the consequence. This is the sentence. The message is crystal clear. Because you were weighed and found lacking, your kingdom is going to be shattered and handed over to your enemies. Its numerical value is 406. And if we sum the digits again, 4 plus 0 plus 6, we get 10. In the scriptures, the number 10 is almost always associated with law and order, right? The 10 Commandments being the most famous example. This suggests that God's divine law is now being fully and finally enforced.
Okay, so we've decoded each part of the message. But There's an even deeper layer here, a final secret that's hidden when you add up all these numbers.
So let's do the math together. We take the value for MENE, which is 182. We add the value for TEKEL, 530. And finally, we add the value for UPHARSIN, which is 406.
And when you add all of those together, you get a grand total of 1118. Now, at first glance, that might just seem like, a random number. But in the world of biblical numerology, this number is a showstopper. It's incredibly significant.
And here is where the code reveals its deepest, most profound meaning. The number 1118 can be broken down. The number 111 is seen by some as representing God the Father. And the number 8, as we just saw, is linked to God's name, Yahweh. Put them together, and what you have is a representation of the double power of God, an absolute, undeniable declaration of His total authority.
So why does any of this matter? Why does this ancient story about a terrified king matter to you and me today? Well, because the message on that wall, it wasn't just for Belshazzar. It actually reveals a timeless process, a warning that echoes right down to our own lives.
You see, the message reveals a universal spiritual truth. First, our days are numbered. Our time here is finite. Second, our lives are weighed. Our actions, our choices, our character, it all matters. And third, based on that weight, a final decision is made. This is a process that applies to every single one of us.
And this really brings the whole story down to a single, personal, and pretty profound question. If our lives were placed on that divine scale today, right now, would we be found complete? Or would we be found wanting?
But here's the crucial point. The purpose of a message like this isn't ultimately about fear. It's meant to be an awakening. It's a wake-up call, a chance to really look at our lives and, if we need to get back on the right path before our time is up.
And that brings us to our final takeaway. That maybe a divine warning, even one as terrifying as writing on a wall, isn't really an act of anger. Maybe it's an act of love, the last chance to listen, to hear, and to change. It is, in essence, the final voice of love.